Attention passengers. This is your co-pilot speaking. Your pilot is black mind, so you are not going blind and there is no power failure. You are merely experiencing the immense blackness of his proximity, and when you hear his voice, you and the cabin will get even darker than you are currently. We will be cruising at the speed equal to light, because the one other thing that travels equally fast is darkness. Your loved ones awaiting your arrival may not recognize you at first sight. This is normal. Simply tell them about the pilot, and they will understand. We will taxi to the runway now, so please buckle up and prepare for a high-speed departure. Thank you for choosing Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. We hope you keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Justice forever.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me tell you, gentlemen, right away, guys, I have on a headset, and I'm not sure which microphone is picking up my voice now, if it's the one on the phone, the headset, or both. But we'll test it out and we'll see. You tell me how this sounds in comparison to other recordings. Now, Media Man has seems to have crashed the UCF out without just completely losing his mind, raising his voice, ranting like a lunatic. He's not doing that, but he seems to have done a pivot on his heels based on new information. The information is not really new, but sometimes it is a confluence of information being new that changes our conclusions. I used to hear about how bad it was between black men and black women, and I wasn't aware of how bad it actually was. I used to hear about the issue, but I did not know the issue was as severe as it was. I really thought that you could tell based on different situations, because that's what it seemed to be. I mean, I was in Morehouse, and a lot of the girls at Spelman were being taught certain feminist theories in their classes. Turns out they really were being taught these things in their classes. It was no joke. But they didn't turn to other women. They didn't start, punching men on sight, things like that. They disagree with certain things. But there wasn't hatred, and I didn't hate them. And I experienced black women pretty much, to a certain extent, being loyal, except with regards to one thing. Sisters believed that they should be romantically, maritally, and sexually difficult for black men, and the black men should remain loyal to black women. That was the only thing, and they didn't seem to be aware that that's what they were calling for. They really seem to believe it's just me respecting myself and having standards and not being too easy. I thought, well, I'm not going to tell you to be too easy so I can understand it. 2005, I got a job. A white chick at the job was trying to get rid of most of the brothers with false claims of incompetence. The sisters banded together, formed a circle around us. They showed solidarity, including the sister who had always dated white guys until she got older and married a brother. That was what threw me for a loop. I was unaware of this. But one day she joked and said, "Oh, I've been a gold digger all my life. I dated white boys all throughout high school." But she married a brother. Assalamu alaikum, Captain. So there was that. And she joined in with the other sisters, and they formed a ring around us, and they silenced this white woman that was trying to get us in trouble. And get us in trouble at the job so that we would eventually lose it. Next thing I know, fast forward, I was accepted into the graduate program through which I became a teacher. When I was a student teacher, I went to where I was supposed to go. And as a graduate student teacher, I Eventually had to go into the high school portion. We trained in middle schools and then in high schools. And when I had to go to the high school portion, I then had to be matched up with a mentor teacher, an experienced high school teacher. I immediately selected the sister. She seemed like that black motherly type. She seemed to be somewhat the way that Jennifer Lewis has tried to play on screen and then play off screen as well. She was that, I thought. When she and I met at her place at her request, through which I met her single mom daughter, and she was a single grandmother, I then went to do the lesson plans with her. That's what she said. That's why I was meeting her. We formed the lesson plans. We turned them in to the principal, assistant principal, and he later on said, please meet with Mr. Black about how to form lesson plans. We did that. We put it together in her place. Instead of saying, well, he's a student teacher, and this is one of his first few, which he did with me, and we're getting better. This is one step out of multiples to come. She then later said, yeah, I don't even know why you did it like that. She forgot I did that with her in her living room, sitting at her table at her request. And I had to be told later on that her negative feedback and her assistant teacher's negative feedback towards me was not because I wasn't doing my job, but it was because I had to be an outspoken black man to do my job. And there were some sisters that just did not take kindly to black men being outspoken, even if it was proper and we were doing our job. She said, my professor told me, this is actually more standard than what you think it is. You may not realize, but this is more standard than what you believe. This happens more frequently than what you would think. She said to me, you notice that the real smart student in that class, he later on got a track scholarship, I think, to go to Georgia Tech. He doesn't know that I saw him there, but I was too far away to speak to him. But she said to me, you notice he's quiet. He doesn't say much. And I nodded my head, yeah. He just answers the question. And she said, now you noticed that in the special needs class where her assistant is supposed to be teaching, that those boys continuously talk, but they don't work. I said, yeah, I do. And she said, they are used to those two types of black men. Either when you don't say anything, you just quietly serve, or you don't know and you always talking. You have to talk at your job. So in their minds, you automatically don't know what you're talking about. Black man always talking, you must not know anything. I've seen it before. Single black moms, not as single black grandmoms, they don't have a positive assessment of black men. I said, oh, got you. That's what's going on. And I actually sat up and kind of doubted her for a second. And she said to me something along the lines of, you won't take my word for it because I'm remarking on something that's not really my business by default, but you're going to see it over time. And if you don't, great. She told me. White professor who may not even be interested in men told me this for my benefit. What the wuck do you think is going on here? I said to her that I appreciated her giving me this warning. I had not seen this before. And the thing is that my father, obviously he's my dad. You already know he's got to be older than me. At that particular time in my life, at that point, you could probably say he was about twice my age. I asked him about this later on. He said, are you sure you didn't just imagine this? And I said, Dad, it's not me that imagined it. I didn't notice it until my professor pointed it out. That's what I'm trying to understand. That's why I'm asking if you've seen that. And what my father told me was that he had noticed a hysteria in many sisters, a lack of calm, exposed frayed nerves. He spoke it in a sense of trauma. He didn't speak about it in a sense of hostility. He didn't even interpret it as such. He said, I have seen a type of hysteria and easy excitability in them because there's a stability that they don't have without stable men. But hostility, son, just that's it. You're a black man, a cold, calculating hostility. Are you sure you're not imagining that? Yes, Dad, I'm sure because I didn't notice it. I had to ask your feedback in case you had, because I don't know. I wouldn't know. This is years, decades, actually. This is about 16 to 18 years after my mother told my brother and I with the stuff she used to hear in the hair salon. Being so bad that she had to pay the hairdresser extra to open up on days she would have normally been closed, so that my mom would not have to hear this stuff and risk getting into trouble. I forgot about that conversation when I had this conversation with my dad. My own father had not been taught to even interpret what he saw as anti-black male hostility. This is well before 2015. A lot of sisters believed the hype themselves. They didn't know about the CDC report because it wasn't out yet. Medium man is one such. We have to remember that for you and I, it would be sort of like learning how to walk. Once you do learn, you don't understand how somebody has to crawl. Once you learn how to ride a bike, you don't understand how people always have to walk. And if we could merely figure out how to fly tomorrow, we would not understand why others must walk or ride bikes or rely on cars or use machines to fly. Sometimes in your dreams when you fly, it's the same thing. You're flying in your dream and you're like, man, I should have been doing this all along. And then you wake up and realize that's not going to happen. It's like that. You and I have been awakened. We don't understand how it is that somebody could remain asleep all the time. So that's what you're looking at. It's not personal. You're not being unforgiven, not being unforgiving per se. You're really literally and legitimately looking and forgetting that you were in the same days, and you may have been sleepwalking at that time. But you were asleep. You don't remember that you were sleepwalking. I mean, you know you were. You've seen the videos of yourself sleepwalking. You've looked at the journal entries that you've written down from back when you were sleepwalking, but you don't, without really thinking about it and concentrating, you don't realize how asleep you were as you moved around, how unaware you were as you moved around and ambulated and performed high-level tasks. I still think that you should be somewhat hard on medium man and on other men that are not up yet, that are not awakened yet. Just hard enough on them to influence them to start moving their fingers and their toes around so that they can fully recover their consciousness. And say, wait, damn, that is not, so what I was dreaming about was not just a thought while I was asleep and dreaming, but it's actually an observable reality. Your mother cuss word right, it is. Yes, it's hatred. That's why they got a whole bunch of excuses for sisters for each other. But they don't have any for you, even when the excuses are legitimate. And truth be told, I've had to learn this with my students. You know what? I don't accept your excuses anymore. No more excuses. Why? It's real simple. I told you, country behinds. Bring your notebooks, bring pens. Stop showing up to class with no way to write things down. Don't just pull your phone out and start typing, because you can't type that quickly on a phone keyboard. Nobody can. That's how arguments get started on social media. People are trying to reply on their phone before they can get to a full-size keyboard. That's why. Some people are so overwhelmed with trying to type into a itty bitty small keyboard, they won't even punctuate. I know what I'm doing when I tell my students bring paper and bring a full-size laptop or tablet. If you're going to type your notes, you're allowed to, but bring a full-size keyboard, then have paper and pencil in case your battery runs out. You're going to be writing and you're not going to be typing on these little itty bitty keyboards on your phones. You're not going to be doing that. I know what I'm doing. That doesn't work. Don't argue with me about it. Maybe the first lesson I need to have next year, as I tell my students, you are going to use only your phone and you're going to type something and then you're going to present what you typed. Then you are going to use a full-size laptop. You're going to go to the library now, present a full-size laptop, sign in, and then you're going to present that. You're going to type something and you're going to present that paragraph to each other. That's what I'm going to have them do. Then they'll understand those are not the same. But nonetheless, you're looking at how these sisters always got excuses for each other, for themselves. But even your valid excuses are not acceptable. They have excuses for each other. But if you die at the wrong time, why, you no good, how dare you up and die just when they needed your money the most? You can't win, you can't break even, and you can't get out of the game. Shout out to the Jackson family and for BGS. So that's why it is. See, he's going through what a lot of us have gone through. But we also have to understand this. Just like a lot of my students come to me and they say, well, you want us to speak English like you do, and that's not fair. But how can you ask us to do that? It's your language, it's not ours. We have to learn it. Why are you marking us so harshly? And I have to say to them, I'm not marking you for not speaking like me. I'm marking you for not speaking like you've been studying it for 6 to 12 years already before you met me. If I give you a low mark, it's not really me giving you one. It's the fact that you earned it because you came to me as if you had not studied it for years before. If I write down a low mark for you, it's because you came to me. And when you came to me, you repeated the same mistakes I taught your stank behind how to correct and how to fix. I taught you there were mistakes. I told you what the corrections were. You repeated the mistakes. You never repeated the corrections. You came back the next day, repeated the same mistakes. That is how we came to this situation. It is the same thing when it comes down to many of these brothers. I'm starting to look at these brothers. I'm like, okay, see, the information's been out here for a while. This is to what we are reacting. We're not making this stuff up. We don't just not like black women because they got wide noses and big lips and nappy hair and a nice melanin count. And they got booty and they got some rhythm and they got soul. That's not why we don't like them. Many of us actually do like them. Like you, medium man, we still care to a certain extent. We're talking, but there are black men who are learning and being conditioned to not want black women anymore. There are such men. And I thought that these men were going to be in their teens, maybe their 20s. That maybe they were still little boys right now going through this because sisters have gotten worse and more brazen, and even with their own sons. So they were going to get to their sons at an impressionable age. I thought that's what was going to happen. No. There are men that are damn near my age that are learning to not want nappy hair, wide noses, big lips, high melanin counts, and a natural booty, and some rhythm and soul. There are men that are beginning to not want sisters now, and the things that turn them off at this point are the visual cues that they previously only associated with more substantial reasons for not wanting sisters. Now, the sight is enough. The sound is enough. I was in Mecca walking with my wife, and I heard a West African Saudi woman. She was talking, I think it was Hausa. They were trying to sell something, but she was talking and she had this heavy voice like a dude, and she was complaining about something. And while I had nothing against her, I don't know her, I immediately was turned off as soon as she began to speak. I was like, she sounds like a dude. And I know that underneath them hijab, she got them naps. And she's probably expressing an attitude just in Hausa, similar to what a Western or other a Western sister would have expressed going across the Atlantic. I gotta do all of this, I gotta do all of that, and I gotta work hard and sell all this to try to make a living. Yeah, yep, you do, yes. Your mother cuss word right, you do. Don't want to hear this mess. That's not all. And here I was. I think I'd just turned 47 at that point. Wasn't interested. I didn't really notice her before. But then she was talking to her friends, and I was immediately turned off. I was like, you know what? If this was the States and I understood what she was saying, she was talking in English, I wouldn't care what problem she was expressing. I wouldn't be interested even in helping. And it's not hatred. It's because this is what the hell I've learned. Same thing when it comes down to many of you guys. But in all honesty, man, Media Man is going through what a lot of us have gone through. And yet and still, I think we, in private, when we're not talking with him, we should keep that in mind. But when we were talking with men like this in real life, we should not show such an understanding. Because if we show such an understanding, they'll abuse it. That could send the wrong message to them. Instead, we should simply say, look, we know what the deal is. This is to what we are reacting. This is what they have done. These are the lies they have told. I am not interested in being patient anymore with these broads, and I don't see why you would be either. This is legitimate to say to them. Why should we be patient? Look at you. Look at the information. Look how long you've had. Look how long it's taking you to wake the uck up and to realize that we're not sitting up here just making this stuff up. We're out here telling you actually how much they hate you. It's a hostility that you are facing. They already hate you. We're not walking around hating them. They hate you from the very beginning. Just lying. And I'm glad that Media Man is coming to realize, see, this is dogmatic. It's just like when I tell you that I'm sure that my religion is correct. It's not that I hate you if you have another one, but if you ask me, I'm going to say, no, mine is correct. Now, of course, we're under scrutiny to make sure that it is anyway, but it's the same thing when it comes down to this red pill aware business. This red pill awareness, this information, this pushback that we're given, the pushback is correct. We don't owe anybody any apologies for the reaction because, frankly, if we're being honest about it, it's a reaction. Because, frankly, what we're doing is that we're simply fighting back because somebody else pushed and pushed and pushed and they wouldn't quit. And they never stopped. And they just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So all we're doing is fighting back. That's what we're doing. At the end of it all, we're fighting back. We're pushing back. We're reacting. We would not be doing this if we had not been provoked, if we had not been attacked, if we had not been falsely accused, if we had not been blamed for stuff that we didn't do. We would have never had this reaction. So fit the guck up out our face and don't say nothing about how we need to learn to love ourselves more or we need to learn more patience with them. Fold the nuck, we don't. What we need to be doing instead is we need to be giving them the mother cuss word blues. And that's only because they insisted. And really, what we need to be doing is giving them the blues. But we don't have to go out of our way to give them the blues. That's too much. We just have to understand that all it takes to give them the blues, if you really want to know the truth, all it takes to give them the blues is that you don't pay attention, they get no attention, and therefore they get no resources. They get no help. They get nothing they want from you. And if they want attention, they're going to have to show some booty. And even then, let's say you start to realize that they ain't really trying to smash like that. And it ain't because they're chaste. It's not that at all. They're not trying to smash like that because they're conceited. Right decision, wrong reason. You realize that, then what do you say to them? Well, that's when you say, okay, you know what? Even if you show some, we know that you're just trying to show off, so never mind. Get out my face. And that's how it is that you give them the blues. And so really it's the lockout game. Give them nothing, like Lionel McTow would say, shout out to them. Give them nothing. That does a hell of a lot more. That's got them talking. That's got them recording, sitting in their cars. And you think with a network like theirs, that them being organized, they would have shared the information. They would have sat up and said, girl, we did this, that, and the other, to the point that we drove them away. You would think they would know this, and therefore they wouldn't be sitting in their cars, turning the cameras to themselves and saying, why aren't men approaching anymore? You would have thought that's what it is. But when Daphne Springs, the comedian, joked about how she was turning down guys before COVID, not realizing that she was not going to get opportunities to tell men no again, and have people laughing, many of us didn't realize that that wasn't just a joke. That was a confession. It was both. So that shows you some sort of hostility, an ego that is tied to a hostility towards us. Not because they're not interested, but because they're looking for you to keep making approaches just so that they can decline you. There's an obsession with declining you. Therein lies the hostility. You could call it a low boiling contempt. It's the same damn thing. And their self-respect is tied to that. Okay. Yeah. That's why it is that when we're talking with these men that are hard to wake up, it is the right thing to sit up and say, I don't understand how you're missing this. If they really did not have access to certain bits of information or certain websites they never knew about, then it would make sense. Okay, no one told you about this website, about this statistic, the backup that you can use to prove and document that this was a myth and it wasn't real. Okay, no one told you. Now I'm telling you. Now, a few weeks later, you'd be like, wait a minute, you knew this stuff now. You've known this for 2 weeks. Why are you sitting up here simping for these broads that wouldn't do anything for you? Man, it ain't all about that. Yeah, it is. It is about that. You think you're doing a good job, or think you're just doing a good deed by helping this woman, giving her a little money on the street because she out on the streets? If you're going to help her, don't let her know what you're doing it. Why would I do that? Because if she knows it's you, guess what she's going to look at you as? A means to get shit for free. She's going to look at you as a means to get for free the same damn things you never feel that anybody owes you for free. That's why. And honestly, man, you guys have helped me out even here in this country. Now, the difference is that here in this country, I almost am never approached by women begging. I have been before. I've been approached. As a matter of fact, one time I was with my wife. So she talked to the lady. That was it. I hardly said 2 words to this lady. I wasn't interested in saying anything to her. I didn't know her. But what I did do is I straight up went somewhere else another time by myself. This lady walked up, and normally, if you're walking and you're about to pass a lady up, you step off to one side of the path and they step off to the other because you're not trying to bump into them. You're being polite. So When she nodded her head at me, I thought she was probably trying to signal me to move over to my right or something so we pass each other at a polite distance. I was like, okay, fine. So I moved over, and then she turned to her left to intersect me, and I flinched a little bit. I was like, what the hell are you doing? I don't know you like that. And she started talking, and I knew she was asking for money, so I did what I normally do. I answered her in Spanish. Ain't no way she spoke that. Told her, I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't understand. And I really didn't. I didn't understand her dialect. But I answered her in Spanish and told her, sorry, ma'am, I don't understand that. And what's the reason? It's real simple. In this society, a man is not to approach a woman, which is fine, unless she's working at a booth and she is selling merchandise, or she's at an information desk. And he's either going to buy the merchandise or he's going to request information. Outside of these work context or being closely related or being married, we're not supposed to approach them, and that's okay. They got their space. That's actually one of the boundaries that is more respected for their behalf than it is for men's. But it's okay for them to come and hit me up for money. Man, get out my damn face. If you doing, I protected women that were being harassed before. That's different. And much to tell the truth, one of the reasons I was doing that is because one of the things I was planning on doing was telling these men from whom I was going to protect these women, if you were offering for free, you can never charge for it later. I was going to put that in their head. I was going to say to them, you offering this for free, how you going to charge for it later? If no man was going to harass these women right now while we're young, then these ladies would have to pay us dowries to get married later on. I was going to put this in his head. Both times, actually. It was twice. But that's different. The other thing, too, is that over here, if a man harasses my wife and I'm not around at the time, other men would defend her. So I would do the same. That's the difference. But you got men here that are like, look, if you are in trouble, yeah, sure, we'll help you out. But we're not supporting you. We're not carrying your bags and hurting our backs. We don't know you, don't owe you. We're not just pulling our money out on your behalf. You'll be safe, though. That's how it is in a lot of places here. And so when I look at these men here, they really don't know, and they are more aware than what I suspected that they would be. Some of these guys who are terrible in English know the word simp. Some of them know the word whore. They understand that feminism is against men. It is not just in favor of ladies. And they look at male feminists and they're like, you a bitch. You think these women are going to want you for saying these things? They will not. I was surprised to find that out last spring. So if you got men here that are actually more red pill aware than they let on, then yeah, we have a right to look at these men in the West with us and say, wait a minute, hold up. Once you've had access to certain bits of information and we know about it, what the hell taking you so long? Because you see, what I'd heard about, I didn't have proof for. When the proof came, then I said, okay, that's it. We know it now. We know, we can see it. You can see that we've been lied about. The CDC has disproven one of the myths and shown that it is a lie. Another one is that state governments and the federal government actually keep reports, but the reports are more easily accessible through the internet. Now you can simply ask AI and it'll scour the appropriate records for you and say, no, actually, these are the real numbers. At least as of sometime in 2022, they'll say that. That's what's different about it. So I tell you guys this because nowadays While there's a lot of misinformation going around, there are still smart ways to at least find out if something is true or if it is not. You can ask AI to tell you at this point what are some of the common misconceptions about many different things, and they'll tell you. You know, this notion of the landscaping features that many islands have, taking millions of years to form, turns out that it doesn't take that long. There's an island now that has a whole lot of topographical changes in it. It's a small and new island. This island is about, right now it's about 61 years old. Now, I'm not joking. There's an island that broke the surface of the ocean 61 years ago. No joke. It's got mountains and valleys and sandy beaches at this point. Stuff you think takes millions of years. There it is right now. Within decades of forming. You can find this stuff out with AI and by reading news. So information now is more available. So now we have more of a right to look, and we don't have a right to do this to Media Man anymore because he's done this about face pivot. But we have a right to look at men who come with this purple pill stuff like Dr. Umar Johnson, Ungawa Johnson, and say, no, bro, you on that bullshit. The information's been out there for too long and you've had access to it. Nigga, now you just lying. We're out here spreading diseases to these women. No, the hell we're not. No, we are not spreading diseases to these broads. A few guys are doing it and the women are spreading it the rest of the way. How many women does Gucci third leg have to go through before he catches a bug if he's actually the one that caught it and spread it? I'm not sure if it's him, but if that actually is him, if the rumor's true, how many women did he have to go through to get that? That's all the hell it takes, man. A quick search now. Hell, now the searches could be performed for you upon voice request, and you could find out some of these things. You could tell these men nowadays, listen, just go to any one of the AI chat services and ask them why there is a manosphere, black or white. What brought it about? Which one is older, the rhetoric to which it is reacting or the manosphere itself? Well, I mean, goddamn, the way I had to form the question already tells you which one is older. What was first, the soil or the plants that grew from it? Just as an example, what's first? The water that the seed needed or the seed itself? Which one came first? Sometimes you don't have to ask a chicken or egg question. And that's why it is, I would say that we need to go ahead and sometimes talk harshly to men whom we know have had it. Some men may have never heard anything about it before. They may really have never heard. Some may have heard, but they don't know how to prove or disprove the information, and that's different. But then there are men who they know the sites and the sources, and they're just waiting on a 6'8", 0% body fat, super muscle bound bedbuck to say the same things before they'll believe it. And even then they won't believe it. If they heard a man say these things, even if it was the personal trainer with whom the women were cheating and not on whom the women were cheating, even if these men come out and they say, look, the truth be told, these women are cheating with me, or they were. All demographics, all of them. If these men came out and said, yeah, they're doing you guys dirty. Yes, we know they are. It ain't your fault. It ain't nothing you could have done differently. We know they're doing you dirty because we're the ones with whom they were willing to do you dirty. If these men came out, then even these guys that just don't want to believe it would sit up and they would say, man, you just an incel. Could be a 7-foot tall personal trainer millionaire. And they say, you just can't get none. And that's why you're saying it. And in all honesty, there will come a day when we'll have to look at guys that do turn around and reach the same light, you could say, or see the same light that Media Man has shown us that he has seen. And rightfully so. But there would come a time when these men will see the same light, if you will, and we will say to these men, hey, listen. We'll have to ask these men, hey, listen, even though you came around, we still have to ask what the hell took you so damn long. And see, I can tell you what it's like to not know this stuff, but I can't tell you what it's like to know and not come around. I don't know what that's like. I need to ask that question at some point. What is it like to hear this stuff and still take a long time to come around? I actually want to ask Media Man this now, but there's no way he would know I exist. I don't have the subscriber base. That's not his fault. He will not know that I exist, and there's nothing that he's done wrong. But I do wonder, we need to know this. If you hear the information, what the walk takes you so long to come around? Is it that you hear it as rumors with no proof or disproof? Is it that you are given sources that are really not trustworthy and they just so happen to be right about this, but you didn't know it at the beginning? Is it that you just intuitively believe that women can't do men any wrong just for the fun of it? Is it because you can't understand why women would just hate men? And therefore you think they don't? Is it because you think that since women should not just be born with a hatred of men, therefore they do not have one now? What is it? You tell us. Inquiring minds want to know. So on one hand, I will say to some that, you know what? Yeah, there are stages through which people have to go. That's true. That does happen. Media Man's going through these stages. And on the flip side, we still have to ask what the hell is taking so damn long? And we need to figure this out. We need to start asking and gathering that information so that we can understand this process. I hope that what I've said is a benefit. Thank you for listening. As always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it in black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black's also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice forever.